Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Mindful Homestead. We're going on 6 years of raising pigs, and I've learned a few things over those years about what makes a good pig shelter and what we particularly are looking for in a pig shelter. So today we're going to build what I have kind of dreamt up in my head to be the ultimate pig shelter for us. First though, we've got to feed the meat birds and the turkeys. Hello, how's everybody doing in here? Hello, turkeys. All the birds from Murray McMurray Hatchery have been growing great. The Cornish that you see behind me are about 2 weeks old and they're absolutely killing it. They're putting on awesome weight. We've had very few losses. One came dead on arrival and we had one pass away since. It was within like the first 48 hours, so killer there. Turkeys over here in this brooder, 0 losses so far. Everybody made it through the mail. Everybody made it through the first 48. They're about a week old today, so really just super impressed with the quality of the birds that are coming from Murray McMurray. I've mentioned before that we use them exclusively. They do sponsor the Homesteaders of New England Fall Gathering. You should be checking that out. NewEnglandHomesteaders.com. Tickets are $25 for the entire weekend. We've got some great speakers coming out. Go check that out right now if you're not already aware. And if you are aware of it, why haven't you bought your ticket yet? Come on, do it. The turkey poults are actually my favorite. They've got such strange little looks, but also kind of cool personalities. Oh, thank you for pooping on me. See what I mean? All right, back you go. Let's go wash off my hand and then we'll get started on the pig shelter. So the pig shelters I've built in the past have been really one of two styles. They've been stationary, that I've kind of built, and they're heavy and they're sturdy, but they're not made to go anywhere. They're made to be built and stay in place. Those were the pallet structures that you saw me taking down in the last video. And then last year I tried something, you can see it's still out in the field behind the Kubota. I tried a shelter that used cattle panels kind of anchored between T-posts and kind of like a modified cattle panel greenhouse style. And I put some metal on the side and a tarp over top. And that actually worked pretty well, aside from the fact that it wasn't in the best place and it was fairly wet in there. And that since the pigs were older when I built it, they kind of didn't really use it. They tried to use the old shelters from when they were piglets. This year, what I want to do is take the concept of that cattle panel greenhouse pig shelter and make it movable. Something I can shuttle around the field and kind of put in different places as the season goes on. Which is why, if you look in my truck, you can see I've got a whole lot of 4x4s and some more metal roof panels too. What I'm gonna try to do here is build a frame for the cattle panel pig shelter with the goal of being able, essentially like a sled, with the goal of being able to hook it up to the tractor and pull it around. I'm also gonna do the entire thing in metal roofing panels, whereas the other one had a tarp over the top and eventually the tarp would blow around and it wasn't really great. But the base of the structure here is going to be two 12-foot 4x4s and two 8-foot 4x4s. I'm going to build some quarter lap joints, which I'll show you how to do to kind of keep everything rigid. I'm not going to go full half laps, really, because I want the cross beams, the 8-footers, to kind of be up off the ground so I can still skid it. But we'll figure that out and I'll show you how I do it. It's a nice spring day here in New Hampshire, so I'm going to take full advantage of that. I'm going to get my tools set up out here. I'm going to be using a miter saw, which you don't really need. You could do this with a regular handheld circular saw, but I have a miter saw, so I'm going to set that up. The longer bed of it will help with these 12-footers. And an impact gun or a driver, a drill driver. That's it. Basic tools for this. Always use gloves when you're working with metal roofing because it doesn't care. It'll slice you right up. So I'm set up here with the miter saw, and I've got a few things set up that are gonna help me build this a little bit stronger than if I just built it without taking any of these steps. I've got these 12-footers here, and the plan is for these 12-footers to run down the sides of the shelter and be the actual skids. I'm gonna hack them off at either end at an angle so that it kind of rides up and over stuff. I have the 8-foot 4x4s, which are gonna kind of go across on either end. I've got it set up so they'll actually be 6 inches in from either end. But I'm gonna notch the 12-foot pieces almost in a quarter lap setup, not a full half lap, because I wanna keep the cross pieces up off the ground so I can drag this. But I am gonna cut a lap in the 12-footers so that the 8-foot pieces can kind of nestle in down and across. And when I throw some GRK fasteners in there, I've got structural screws, because pigs destroy everything. This sled base should be pretty strong for the rest of the shelter to kind of sit up and ride on. To set up to cut the laps in this piece of wood, I've got my miter saw set to a max depth of 1 3/4 inches. 4x4 is actually 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. It's not 4x4. So halfway through this is 1 3/4 inches. If you had a handheld circular saw, you could just set that to a depth of 1 3/4 inches and just make your cut straight across. Miter saw makes it a little bit easier because I know my cuts are going to be straight, so it's going to be easier to square at the end. But if you're careful with a circular saw, you could do it the same way. This is a tool right here I made, definitely not, it's basically a screwdriver that I sharpened. I made it when I made the salads and chicken tractors because I didn't want to run out and buy a chisel. I still have it kicking around. You're gonna take your 12-footers and you're gonna cut a relief like that, 6 inches in on the top of what's gonna be the top of each one. I don't know if it's technically what kind of lap joint it is. I know it's some type of lap joint, but I know if you cut it on both pieces, the top and the bottom, it's a half lap. And if you don't do any of that, I've been told it's a full lap. So maybe this is a quarter lap. I'm not a woodworker, but yes, you're gonna do that on both of your long ends. 6 inches in from each side. You're going to start 6 inches. All right, now that I got my frame set up, I'm gonna check my square by measuring corner to corner. So I'll measure from there to there, and then there to there, and make sure they match. It's a pig shelter, so, you know, within an inch for me is probably good. For this, we're gonna use 5/16 by 5 1/8 RSS GRKs, or GRK RSS. These are rugged structural screws is what they're called. Essentially, they're a lag bolt replacement. This makes it a lot easier for me. I don't have to drill for lags. It's going to be stronger than using like decking screws or anything like that. Pigs are destructive. They want to destroy things. So by using these, I'm getting almost full penetration. We're at a stack height at about 5¼ inches. These are 5 1/8, so I should be coming in within pretty close to the bottom and getting a full, full thread in there. That's the beauty of cutting those recesses in there on a miter saw that you know is going to be at 90 degrees. We're 1/2 inch off of square, which for me is, it's way less than I expected to be off, and I'm not even going to bother to correct it. I'm just going to sink my GRKs in where it's at right now. I'll be upfront with you and let you know that these GRKs are not cheap. My local hardware store, the cheapest package they had of this size, 50 count was actually $58. So it is kind of expensive. They will save you a lot of time over lag screws. You don't have to pre-drill anything. You don't have to countersink anything. Everything kind of sits flush and comes together for you. And I like using them for that. The downside to it, though, is just that they're expensive. The next step on this, after you get everything bolted together at all 4 corners, is to install your eye bolts or eye lags or whatever you want to call these. The whole point of this pig shelter is that it's movable. It's not a pig tractor, although it's kind of the same idea as a chicken tractor. We would move your chickens every day or every other day. With the pigs, the idea of this is that if we're going to move them to a new area, we can move their shelter. If the area they're in for some reason gets flooded or too wet, we can pick it up and move it. If we're going to put pigs in a different part of the farm in the following year, we can move this to that location. The whole idea is that it's easy to hook up to the tractor with a chain and get on the move. So these eye lags are going to go up front here. I'm going to put them in a spot where there is still plenty of meat. I'm going to sink them not all the way down, but a good bit of the way down. And I'm going to make sure to orient them so that when I'm pulling on this, it's actually pulling from here versus this side. You can kind of see this is open right here. I don't think this is going to open up on me, but I don't want to pull here because this could rip that open and eventually I'm not going to be able to use it. If I pull it here, at the very least, what's going to happen is if this bends, it's going to bend over and it's going to be a hook instead of an eye. It's not the end of the world. The worst case scenario in this is that these fail eventually, or they rip out, and then I have to come back through and use an eye bolt instead of an eye lag where I actually go all the way through. Because these are so big, I do need to drill them beforehand. This is a 7/16 screw eye. This is a 5/16 drill bit. That's gonna give me the right amount of enough relief to get it in without the wood splitting, but also enough tension where it's not gonna rip out on me. Frame done and square, eye bolts in. I'm going to take this now, because I'm at the end of where I can work on it in the garage, and I'm going to pull it out with the tractor into the front yard. It pulled pretty good behind the Kubota. I switched it up from the front to the back. I used it on the front to get it out of the garage because I could see where it was at on the door of the garage. I didn't want to hit anything. But really pulling wide on the bucket, that Workmaster plate is awesome. It's a super quick, you know, those weld-on hooks there are just great. But pulling it and making tight turns is definitely easier when it's on the back of the tractor and it's got a little bit more of a swing, or a little bit less of a swing on the tractor. It dug up a little bit of dirt, but honestly, I'm not even that concerned with it because it's going to be going out there in the pasture, or what will be pasture eventually. But without measuring, it looks like it stayed square. The eye hooks worked all right. The weight of this is not going to be too much more. I mean, the bulk of the weight on this is really the frame itself. These 12-foot long pressure treated 4x4s are not light. I'm going to stop working on this today, but the video is going to continue. I have some other chores I want to get done today, but I will reconvene on this project the day after tomorrow, where we will be getting that out of the field and bending it straight. And then hopefully, today's Wednesday, I'll work tomorrow at my job, and then Friday, yeah, we will finish this. I am getting all the work I can do in with the Kubota today because quite honestly, we sold the Kubota. Kubota's gone, or it's not gone, it's still here, but it's gone later today. I'm actually going to be dropping it off at the new owner's house, but we're going to be without a tractor for 3 weeks until the new one's ready, potentially 4. So yeah, I'm trying to do as much as I can today. I think this will work. Aside from that kink that we bent straight over here, I mean, you can see it. And definitely like the arch, but I'm not too worried about it. I mean, it's a pig shelter. Doesn't need to be pretty. We got it into its final resting place. Maybe not final, but resting place for now. Down here in what's going to be the pig pasture this year. Towed pretty well. I'm still going to throw some more wood scabs on the inside just to keep the roofing on, keep it a little bit more solid. I'm going to build a back for it down that way to kind of keep it from blowing side to side like it wants to. But other than that, it pulled great behind the little Kubota, which brings me to kind of a bittersweet moment on the channel. By the time you guys see this video, we will no longer have the Kubota. If you follow our Facebook and Instagram, you saw that we had this posted for sale. I put it up last Saturday, and Wednesday evening we had somebody come and look at it, and they agreed to purchase it off of us. They're followers of the YouTube channel. They live relatively local. They're about 20 minutes away. And we worked out a deal for them to purchase the Kubota. So the Kubota will no longer be with us as of this afternoon. I'm going to drop it off there at their house, and they will be the stewards of the Kubota moving forward. There are a couple of pretty cool sheep farmers, Jason and Maggie Schrock. They do have an Instagram for their farm, which I will link down in the description below. So if you want to stay up to date on what's going on with our Kubota after it leaves our farm, head on over to their Instagram page and follow them there. If you want to stay up to date on the tractor that we are replacing the Kubota with, make sure to head down below and hit that subscribe button, because that's going to be coming up in a video real soon. Big shout out to all of our patrons over on the Patreon channel. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye.